expecting Jason Garcia. Ah, here he is now. Just going to admit him now. Yeah, ready to go.
Okay. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the March Pension Fund Committee meeting. Hope everyone's keeping well. It must be coming up to a year, Jeff, since we all met personally, and hopefully that's not too long away now, where we can all get together again. And you never know, we may stretch to some sandwiches, Jeff, as a celebration. You never know. So welcome, as I say. I'll take the first item on the agenda. Can I welcome Jason Garcia of Audit Wales. Welcome, Jason, to present item 4A.
Thank you, Chair.
David and Nick from Hymans, and Aidan Quinn from Russell Investments, if they're on already. Welcome to everyone that's attending this morning. So I'll go for first item on the agenda then, and apologies for absence, Jeremy.
No apologies, Chair.
Excellent. Any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest? I'll go first. I am a member of the City of Swansea Pension Fund. City and County Swansea Pension Fund. Phil Downing.
Yeah, the usual thing, Chair. My brother works for the council and he's a member of the pension fund.
Okay, Peter.
Yeah, usual thing. My daughter-in-law works for the authority and is a member of the pension fund.
Okay, Jan.
Yeah, same, Clive. I'm a member of the pension fund. Thank you.
Gareth.
I've lost my hand. My daughter is a member of the pension fund there, and I receive a pension from the Dyfed County Council Pension Fund.
Okay, is that it?
And officers.
No, me as well, Chair.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm a member of the pension fund as well, and I'd like to disclose a personal interest, please.
Will.
Yeah, member of the fund, Chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
Officers.
Yeah, I'm a member of the fund as well.
I'm a member of the fund as well.
Okay.
And I'm a member of the fund.
Sorry. I'm a member of the fund as well.
Okay, if everyone can complete the declaration forms that Jeremy will no doubt send out.
Yeah,
as we go to the meeting.
I've sent the email those around already, Chair.
There we are. Thank you, Jeremy. As efficient as ever. If we go to the minutes of the last meeting on page 1, then that's the meeting of November the 12th. So I'll go through page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Okay, anybody got any amendments? No? Okay. Somebody like to move them as a true and accurate record?
Yeah, move, Chair.
Jan and Mike seconded. Okay, that's excellent. All agreed? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And then we next move to item 4 then, which is reports of the Audit Wales City and County of Swansea Pension Fund Audit Plan 2021 on page 6. And Jeff, are you kicking this one off?
We've invited our audit manager, Jason Garcia, to present this. It's their report, Chairman, and outlining their audit plan for the forthcoming year.
Okay, thanks. Jason, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Hope you're all well in these challenging times, and hopefully the restrictions come in soon and we can all get back to some normality. But as you said, this particular report starts on page 6 of your pack, and it is our standard audit plan, for the audit coming for the 2021 financial statements. So if I can just take you through some of the highlights, and then there'll be an opportunity for members to ask questions thereafter. first bit talks about the sort of responsibilities and things of that nature, and then there's a bit of narrative around the impact of COVID-19. You know, this has now been, as you said, you know, pretty much a year of working in this way, and you know, we've all had to adapt how we do things, and you know, certainly that's how we ended up doing the 1920 audit, and you know, we worked closely with Cara and Jeff and the team there, you know, and very grateful for the way, you know, they adapted, you know, to our ways of remote working now, because we've all been working from home now for nearly a year, you know, and you know, it generally went well. So there's a bit of narrative, you know, outlining, you know, the ongoing restrictions, and you know, nothing is guaranteed in this current world, and obviously we've got to be adaptable to circumstances as they change. So then the next bit I'd like to sort of highlight really goes on to paragraph 12, and this is our sort of risk assessment process of what we identify as financial audit risks, you know, for this coming audit. So there's two significant risks we've identified. Shouldn't be anything of any surprise in here. Ultimately, in any audit we do, we include a significant audit risk of what's called management being able to override the controls within financial systems. So ultimately, we do work to mitigate that risk, you know, and that's the sort of standard template risk that we've identified there. And then there's another risk around COVID-19, and ultimately, you know, we've all got key employees, you know, in this process that unfortunately could go off ill at any point and whatever, and that can really make a, you know, a difference to the ability to deliver, you know, as initially planned. So we're working closely with Karen and Jeff around, you know, their arrangements, you know, agreeing at an early stage when we're going to be trying to do the work, you know, and things of that nature to try and mitigate that risk. But it's certainly something we needed to record as part of our risk assessment. Then we come on to what we call other areas of audit attention. And again, you know, you should be aware of all of these because they're long-standing issues. Certainly the McLeod judgment, you know, continues, you know, to drag on. The consultation has now finished, and ultimately, you know, they've the government have proposed a remedy, you know, and ultimately, you know, in any valuation of any liabilities, the actuary is going to have to take account of the most up-to-date position relating to that particular judgment, and we will do work on that one, you know, over the audit period. You continue to have private equity investments, you know, and the valuations of those, you know, come in generally relatively late in the process. So, you know, we will do work with them around the valuation, and it's usually something that either ends up in an amendment into the accounts, if depending on how late the valuation is, or, you know, we gain the assurance we need. And then Wales Pension Partnership, you know, continues to develop. Further investment funds have been set up over the, you know, the last year, and I believe further investments have been put in from Swansea Pension Fund into those investment funds. And we work with the audit team for the Wales Pension Partnership to get assurance over, you know, the balances of investments you hold in that arrangement. So those are the risks and areas of audit attention we've identified. Then coming on to the sort of next section, sort of standard section around the fee. We've held the fee consistent, you know, with what it ended up being last year. You know, actually, we did end up going slightly over in fee last year than we had estimated, but the Auditor General took a decision in view of, you know, the impact of COVID-19. That was nobody's fault. It was nothing that the council or the pension fund had failed to deliver. So, you know, we ended up taking a small hit in that regard in relation to keeping it at the level we'd estimated in last year's audit plan, and we're estimating it to be the same, you know, for this current year. One sort of change to the audit team in the fact that the council's audit team leader, Daniel King, has now picked up the role on the pension fund as well. So he will be doing both the pension fund and the main council. So I'm pleased about that. And then there's a bit of information around, you know, when we're planning on, you know, delivering the audit and providing the audit opinion. And that's pretty much it, Chair. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions members have.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Very good. Any questions for Jason?
Just, Chair,
Mike?
Just an observation. I'd like to thank the Wales Audit Office for holding the fee. It's been a very trying year for everyone, and I think that was the right thing for them to do. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well said, Mike. Okay, Any other questions? No. Okay. Bear with me a sec. So this report is for noting, Jeff, is it? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no recommendation to
No
approve.
recommendations on this one. Okay.
We're not
Okay. Everyone happy that the report is noted and accepted? Yeah. Nobody against? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Chair. Leave you in peace now. So good luck in the rest of your
We'll
meeting.
see you soon. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. We move on then to item 5 then, which is reports of the Section 151 officer, and item A is the City and County of Swansea Pension Fund draft funding strategy statement, page 18. Jeff?
Thank you, Chairman. You may recall about this time last year, the Pension Fund Committee actually approved the draft funding strategy statement at that time. And those of you with good memories will recall that you're only normally required to approve a draft funding strategy statement after every triennial evaluation, when normally that document gets refreshed and revised. However, in the landscape of how local government delivers its services and how it develops and how it chooses to use its options available to it to deliver services via third parties now quite often, that has opened the door to more membership of the LGPS from third party employers and with the increase of admission bodies into the LGPS. And what the regulations have sought to do is to safeguard the interest of administering authorities when dealing with admitted bodies, because as you know, the liabilities incurred in respect of LGPS membership are long-standing and run to the tens of years. You know, if someone joins a scheme as a young apprentice, you know, they can be in the scheme for about 40 years. However, a lot of these contracts for services are much shorter in nature. You know, 10 years, for example, it tends to be the typical period of these service arrangements. For example, you know, letting a service contract to run leisure services to a leisure trust, for example, they're typically for about 10 years, for example. So there is this dislocation between, you know, the duration of liabilities and the safeguards that are in place as a result of the admission agreements. And locally, our main source of insurance and safeguarding our interest in dealing with admission bodies tends to be relying on a sponsoring employer guarantee, whereby we expect one of the major tax raising bodies, i.e. ourselves as Swansea Council or Neath Port Talbot Council, to underwrite and guarantee any admission into the fund, so that should an employer get into difficulties and not be able to meet those contributions or outstanding liabilities, we have recourse to that sponsoring employer for those outstanding liabilities. However, the regulations were a bit silent on other mechanisms of recourse and ways to redress these risks. So they've issued some guidance around that, in which administering authorities can deal with admission bodies, and that requires an update to the funding strategy statement. And you can see appended to the report is a revised funding strategy statement with the proposed amendments, and the proposed amendments are highlighted in yellow. So the original document that Pension Fund Committee approved last year is unhighlighted, and the draft amendments are in yellow. And as you can see, they largely revolve around flexibilities afforded to the administering authority in allowing employers and admission bodies to have a number of years to repay any outstanding liabilities, you know, in the form of deferred payment agreements. So is that sort of because currently the way the regulations are written don't allow that flexibility. They're required to be paid in full upon completion of the exit valuation. However, you know, the MHCLG recognises that's not very pragmatic. You know, these sums potentially could be quite large upon exit, and it would be pragmatic to allow employers, you know, a period of up to 3 years to repay any outstanding liabilities. So it's tinkering around the edges, really, around the flexibilities afforded to the administering authority in allowing the flexibilities for us to recover any outstanding liabilities in respect of an exiting employer. So Chair, you know, I'm not proposing to go through line by line and all the minutiae of the proposed changes, but that's a flavour of the amendment to the draft funding strategy statement, and we're asking for the committee to approve those amendments in draft form, and then we're going to take those amendments out to employers for consultation to get their feedback, and then bring it back to committee if they make any further observations or recommendations to document, Chairman.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Mike.
Yeah, hi, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Jeff, is there any way that the fund can insure against one of these new employers coming in and not being able to reach their commitments to us and resulting in the fund losing out? So, and most other businesses that I know of insure against that. So is it a way that the fund can insure against any long-term debt or big-term debt?
That's a very good question, Mike, and it's a major consideration of the administering authority when it considers the admission agreement. It does a full covenant review of the prospective employer. You know, there's a lot of due diligence is undertaken before the actual sponsoring employer takes that decision to award that contract. So we rely on a lot of that background due diligence. However, as an admin authority, we undertake our own separate due diligence on the prospective employer, and we have two options open to us, Councillor Lewis, in terms of that insurance that you referred to. We either seek a bond for them to take out an actual bond guaranteeing there any potential liabilities, or what is the course of action that we choose to undertake is I referred to it in the presentation, is the overarching sponsoring employer guarantee. So we require a guarantee of either Swansea Council as a sponsoring employer or Neath Talbot Council as a sponsoring employer, and you know, noting the deeper pockets of both those organisations, we're comfortable that they will be able to underwrite and guarantee any subsequent outstanding liabilities of an employer. And if you recall, Councillor Lewis, and this is the very first instance of an employer experiencing difficulties and actually going into liquidation, we reported to committee last June the demise of Rathbone Training. Both Gower College and Swansea Council outsourced their training services to Rathbone Training previously, and to protect the staff's accrued pension rights when they transferred to Rathbone Training. The Pension Committee approved the admission of Rathbone Training. However, the committee required alongside that approval, what was a guarantee from Swansea Council and Gower College of any outstanding liabilities. And as it came to pass, Rathbone College did go into liquidation as a result of difficulties experienced during COVID, and we do have recourse to those guarantees. So Swansea Council are going to meet those outstanding liabilities in respect of its responsibilities, and Gower College similarly is going to meet its its outstanding liabilities in respect of its promises made. So it does work.
Jeff, sorry, Jeff, I thought you finished. Sorry.
So, no, happy to answer any more questions, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with this one a little bit, because whereas I wouldn't like the current pensioners then to lose out by a company going into liquidation and not putting their monies in for their employees, one. But then looking at it from with my councillor hat on, I'm not happy that the taxpayer has to bail out a company that has gone through, basically. So that's my problem here.
Councillor, if you think of it, there's a virtuous circle here in that. Though in respect to the Swansea Council, to your point about Swansea Council and the local taxpayer bailing out those outstanding liabilities, those staff originated from Swansea Council as employees. They're originally employees of Swansea Council. Swansea Council, as an employer, took the decision to outsource that service. Those employees transferred to the third party, and so the thinking being that it's right and proper that original sponsoring employer underwrites those pension promises made. So that's the rationale for that. So had those members remained employees of the council, those liabilities would have remained with the council, and the taxpayer would have paid them in eventuality. So it's a virtuous circle in that regard. I don't know if my explanation sort of explains how it's the same end almost.
Yes, thank you for that, because that set my mind at rest now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that was Rathbone as well. That was a transfer, Jeff, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
As well. So yeah, okay. I've got Phil down in next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's on the consultation. It is. How long is this consultation going to take, Jeff? You answered my second one, saying after the consultation, it will come back to us. So until that comes back to us, we're still working on the old strategy. Well, I understand what you said about the new strategy and the other employers covering their employees, but until then, we're covering it.
No, Councillor Downing, the arrangements that we've got in place at the moment still hold. These amendments to the draft funding strategy statement are just added flexibilities, basically, that give us a bit more leeway in how we deal with potential employer exits. So, in terms of the consultation not being completed, it doesn't hamstring us or not allow us to do anything that we're wanting to do at this moment. As I say, employer failures in the LGPS in Swansea anyway are rarer than hen's teeth. The Rathbone example is the first during the last 20 years that I'm aware of, and hopefully everything outlined in these new remedies won't be called upon, but yeah, they're there in the event of an employer failure. So the length of the consultation, the last time we consulted on the FSS before the trial evaluation, I think we gave consultees 2 to 3 weeks. We had no response last time. It's quite a dry document. It doesn't really impact on employers in a major way, and I'm expecting this consultation to result in that same response, Councillor Downing. So I suspect the document that we bring back before committee will be exactly the same document that you see in front of you.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Peter?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just ask, on page 43, paragraph 625, the Goodwin case, it's mentioned the Goodwin, and it says at the end that no changes are yet being proposed. Are we expecting changes in this year, in this financial year, Jeff?
The Goodwin case. There's the Goodwin case and there's a Godwin case, and I have to get it right now. I have to get make sure I'm speaking about the correct one. I'm not expecting any outcome of that, because you'll be aware of how long it took for the outcome of the McLeod judgment that Jason Garcia of Audit Wales mentioned earlier on, and that took a number of years for that to be successfully resolved. The Goodwin case is similar but different in that it's about civil relationships and how that affects pension promises, etc. So I haven't heard that any a judgment is pending. However, again, it's one of those other risks and uncertainties that we have to accommodate into how we manage the scheme, and it could potentially have an impact in the same way that McLeod judgment had.
Okay. Thanks, Clive.
Okay, thanks. Good questions. And well done, Jeff, for answering. Okay, if there's no more questions, then we'll go to the recommendation, which is on page 18, that the revisions of the funding strategy statement are approved subject to the consultation. And Jeff, just for clarity, as you said, you'll bring back the report again when the consultation is completed, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, all right, all those in favour then, can they raise their little hand if they've got one? If not, their physical hand? You can see Will, Phil, Mike, Peter. Yeah, okay, that's carried. Nobody against. Okay. We move on to the next item of the agenda, which is item 4B, the breaches statement for information. Jeff, on page 54.
Thank you, Chairman. Standing report on the agenda, committee members. I'm not intending to go through it in detail. Just draw your attention to the new breaches since we last reported to you, and they start on the bottom of page 66. Happy to answer any questions on the new breaches or anything else included in the report.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff, Mike? Oh, sorry, your hand is still up, Mike. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, for that matter. Okay, if there's no questions, then that report is for information. We next go to item 5C, which is the City and County of Swansea Pension Fund Business Plan 21-22, page 69.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, this is an annual report. You receive it on an annual basis. It's good practice that the Pension Fund Committee produces a business plan which identifies or provides a framework for your work plan for the year, and it also includes the outlined budget and a very high level risk register that identifies the key risks and things that the Pension Fund Committee are monitoring during the year. Of interest, and bring to your attention some of the items in the forthcoming action plan are. If I could draw your attention to page 80 of the document, that's a business plan for the forthcoming year. You'll see there, item 3, take an amended Wales Pension Partnership Inter-Authority Agreement to full council for amendment to recognise a full scheme member representative on the JGC of the WPP. As we'll report later on in the Wales Pension Partnership update, the JGC of the Wales Pension Partnership approved at its last meeting a scheme member representative to sit on the Joint Governance Committee of the Wales Pension Partnership. As you're aware, the chairman, Councillor Lloyd, is Swansea's representative on the Joint Governance Committee, and Councillor Lloyd was very instrumental and very vocal in his support of a scheme member representative on the decision-making body of the Wales Pension Partnership. Following a quite a lengthy legal and consultation process, it was determined that a scheme member representative could be elected to that body, but on a non-voting basis only, because of the restrictions of Section 101 of the Local Government Act. So the work plan here identifies the admin and housekeeping that we have to undertake to amend the inter-authority agreement to have that change reflected in the standing orders and inter-authority agreement of the Wales Pension Partnership. So just pointed it out for your information, and just to indicate that it was largely down to the lobbying and the vocal support of our Pension Fund Committee and a number of other Pension Fund committees for all that support. Again, the plan identifies as well. I know it's in the press and of interest to lots of elected members, because I know you've been lobbied on an individual basis. I know Councillor Thomas and Councillor Sullivan have forwarded me queries they've received on an individual basis. But you can see here on the work plan the ongoing work that we're doing in respect of our carbon reduction program, and also implementing our ESG policy in our investment portfolio. And I'm sure that public scrutiny and public interest will only gather momentum as everyone else in the LGPS catches up, and more media attention is focused on this, following you know, the recent requirements to adopt risks in climate change in reporting in financial disclosures, etc. So it's a watch this space, and it's good that we identified it early, undertook early action, and you know, as previously reported, yeah, you've definitely led the way in Wales as far as actions that you've undertaken previously in that regard. Also, during the forthcoming year, revisions to the various governance arrangements and training plans, etc., that you're going to receive another report on in later on this agenda. And then at Appendix 2 is the outline budget of the Pension Fund Committee. You know, again, just providing some information on the proposed expenses of the pension fund for the forthcoming financial year. Nothing further to add, Chairman. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks for that, Jeff. Yeah, good update. And yeah, the member representative issue was something that you know, took a bit of time, didn't it, and a bit of persuading from some of our other pension funds in Wales. But I think it was you know, it was pretty overwhelming in the end that you know, there's an acceptance that it's good practice and the right thing to do going forward, have that representation. So that's good. Mike, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just to say, I think we're all on the same page, and we have been on the same page for many years now with regards to sustainable development and lowering carbon outputs and investing in low carbon financial investments. We've all had those letters, and whilst I appreciate the vein and the thrust of the letter, unfortunately the active environmentalists don't understand that we can't change immediately, because that would jeopardize the financial viability of the fund. So we are doing everything we can, and we are changing, and we are looking for sustainable investments, and we will continue to do so. But unfortunately, it's something we cannot do overnight, because our main commitment is to our pensioners whose pension money we are investing, and we have a legal duty to invest that at the best possible rates that we are going to achieve. But in saying that, we all know during the last 3 or 4 years, sustainable investment have become more profitable than the carbon investments, and we recognised that several years ago, and we, that's the road we've taken, and I think the fund is, as Clive will let you know, an excellent vehicle for that type of investment. Just to say, we're all on the same page, but it is a transition period, and that is going to take time. We can't do it overnight, but we are on the same road. That's all I want to say, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Listen, I was going to bring this up at the next item, but I might as well just cover it now, really. Some of you, if not all of you, might have had an exchange with Friends of the Earth following a report that they published along with by Friends of the Earth and Platform, who I'm not familiar with, Jeff, but anyway, which basically, I don't know what the mechanics or they used to come up with their report, but it was basically they came up with a report just highlighting which pension funds had the least exposure or investment in fossil fuels, and you can debate it all day, can you? And I do now and again with John Childs about the progress that Swansea is making in comparison to other pension funds in Wales. I don't know if their report is accurate, but if it is, it seems to show, Jeff, that we're about middle of the road in terms of our exposure directly to fossil fuel based investments at about 2.9% overall. Again, he emailed me. John emailed me. He said that we were above the UK average. Again, I don't know if that was the case. I don't think that was what we found when we did our analysis to set up the report. But anyway, it's there was recognition from Friends of the Earth that other progress that Swansea Pension Fund has made. So that's a positive. But it is really they've got an agenda of pure divestment from these multinationals. These mining companies, oil-based companies, that they prefer to see them go out of business rather than carry on, and that's a different agenda. And as you say, Mike, one that we're not going to follow. Not least because, as we found, it's not only those companies that have a carbon footprint. Many other companies that we invest in also have a carbon footprint. Tesla is an example of where, on the face of it, they're great electric cars going forward, but their carbon footprint is nothing to write home about. Batteries, the production of batteries to drive electric cars leaves a much bigger, at least as much carbon footprint as mining and oil drilling does, from what I've been reading. So there's a long way to go, and I'm quite clear is we've got a strategy that takes us up to 2022. We're not going to be swayed for that. We're almost there, and that's my target as chair going up until the next local elections. If I'm still chair in the coming year or next year, that we continue that process and we won't be deviated from that. And I think that's the right strategy. I will tell you, though you've all been copied into it, I did agree that I would. John Childs or Friends of the Earth have emailed everyone, I think, about a webinar on the report that they produced. And if I got a chance, I will look in. I have looked into some of the Friends of the Earth stuff online on the presentation, and it is interesting stuff, and it is worth looking. And you become more aware, don't you, of some of the arguments. But it's a different agenda. They just see pure divestment as the way forward. So that's been circulated to everyone anyway, I believe. Jeff?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasise the point that you made quite eloquently there, Chairman, in that Friends of the Earth are very binary in their thinking. It's either you invest in fossil fuels, you're bad; you divest in fossil fuels, you're good. They're almost ignoring, as to your point, the whole carbon emissions of the rest of the investment portfolio. And what this committee chose to do was to measure the whole carbon emissions of all your investments in your listed equity portfolio, not just focusing on fossil fuels. And if you recall the report that Councillor Lloyd presented to Council in December and came to committee before it was presented to Council, the metrics in that identified that the energy sector, which includes fossil fuels, accounts for about 25% of carbon emissions in the index. You have committed to reduce your carbon emissions by 50%. So if you did what Friends of the Earth wanted, excluded fossil fuels and fossil fuels only, you'd be excluding 25% of carbon emissions, which is half of what you've committed to remove from your investment portfolio. So they're almost asking you to do less than you're doing now. It's that almost unwillingness to recognise the impact of your other investments rather than just fossil fuels. So it's quite a frustrating dialogue that the chairman has with Friends of the Earth in this regard, and lots of the work that you do gets lost in the noise about other councils divesting from fossil fuels, etc., etc. As I've just highlighted, that'll have only a fraction of the impact your decision that you took a number of years ago in respect of reducing carbon emissions in your investment portfolio. So just wanted to highlight that for your benefit, committee members.
Thanks, Jeff. Will?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to echo that, really. I think it's definitely the right strategy, to tackle the emissions as a whole. I mean, it's the only way, really, in my opinion, to look at it. I mean, I was very surprised recently to learn that Google, for example, every Google search that's performed, I think I saw it broken down, I think it's 0.2 grams of carbon released into the atmosphere for every Google search. You never hear of Google being a large sort of emitter, and obviously they are moving towards more renewable energy, but at the moment, they can't, huge computer processing power to perform all these Google searches, so all these things that you don't associate carbon with Google, for example, but it's definitely the right approach that we have, and well done to everyone working on it.
Thanks, Will. Jeff?
So just a naughty point to come back to Councillor Thomas there, along the same lines that he's made the observation about energy consumption of a Google search. I read somewhere that the annual energy consumption of people mining for Bitcoin is equivalent to the energy output of Argentina, apparently. just for your benefit, Councillor Thomas.
If you look at the carbon footprint of the current banking system, Jeff, and the US military, which I'm sure is the thing that protects our current banking system, then I think that's a hell of a lot more than the Bitcoin output. But I'm happy to take that one up with you offline if you like.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. Well, if there's nothing else, the recommendation there is on page 69, that the City and County of Swansea Pension Fund Annual Business Plan and Budget 21-22 is approved. Could you all raise your hands, please? Okay, I think I'm seeing everyone. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's passed. Put your hands down. And we move on to item D. Item 5D, trustee training on page 87 to 92. Jeff?
Thank you, Chairman. The report before you here is just a prompt, a reminder to Pension Fund Committee members of their obligations in respect of their role on this committee to keep themselves up to date and appraised of all things LGPS. So that when they make a decision, they can make it in an informed fashion and knowing that they make it with that comfort. During the past year, noting the tenure of the committee is varied. Some very long-standing and some very new members. We thought it appropriate to undertake a quick analysis of where the knowledge and skills of the Pension Fund Committee stood in that regard, and we very happily took part in the Hyman's national knowledge assessment that they ran just at the start of lockdown, as I recall, because I think I remember lots of members doing the survey in the garden and doing with a drink in hand, as I recall, some of you. Yeah, that the results of that survey then is used to inform a training plan, which is in the report on page. Well, some recommended trainings. This is in section 3.8 of the report, where it identifies training, which was coming out of that assessment. Also, lots of Pension Fund Committee members have also taken part in training that's been organised by the Wales Pension Partnership. I know lots of you signed in during the last 12 months into training organised by the WPP, and the feedback I've had, especially on the ESG stuff and the voting and engagement stuff, has been very, very positive. So they're due to produce their training plan at their next meeting of the JGC, and so we will need to dovetail into that training plan to ensure there are no duplications, and we don't subject pension fund committees into training fatigue and training overload. But this is a starter for 10 really for areas that we're going to try and get some training, arrange some training on the next 12 months with our advisors, Hyman's, and also the fund managers themselves, if appropriate, and other third parties. So Chairman, yeah, the report is just to approve the training plan identified.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Any question for Jeff? As he outlined, it's really important that we keep up our knowledge base. Jeff, I've been on the Pension Fund Committee now. This is my second term. I can't remember this amount of training in the first term that we ran this. So, and it is in a really good way. It's come a long way, isn't it? In terms of accessibility to training for members as well. So that can only be a good thing, isn't it? And having said all that, and I did the assessment for the JGC. I was worse than I was this time last year, so it's not helping. But I've gone backwards. But I'm sure it is really positive, and again, just encourage members to attend wherever they can, accepting that not everyone can attend everything either. Mike.
Yeah, just a couple of things, Jeff. Great, the training through the year, excellent. I do like the remote training, and post-pandemic, I hope it can continue, because it saves me 2 hours a day getting ready, going down to the Guildhall, and then having to come back. Excellent, and I don't mind remote training at all, because I feel that I can concentrate more by myself without a room full of people around. On what is being said and how we are being led by the training. So, yeah, excellent. Really good coverage through the year, and I hope that is long to continue. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, so we've got the recommendation then on page 87, which is the assessment and outline training plan in 3.7, 3.8 and 3.9 be approved, and further opportunities which are identified during the year be delegated to the Deputy Section 151 officer for approval. Okay, can I see hands raised for that vote? Yeah, can see everyone. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Put your hands down. And we move on to item 5E, exit cap regulations update. This is a really interesting one, Jeff. Page 93.
Thank you, Chairman. If you recall, just before Christmas, I presented a report to you informing you of the pending implementation of the 95k cap on public sector exits. Just by way of recap, it was legislation was brought in to limit to £95,000 any compensation package payable to an employee within the public sector to £95,000. Both prior to its implementation and as it was implemented, it was subject to a number of judicial review submissions from a number of bodies, the unions, the Society of Local Authority Lawyers. So I think from the very offing, you know, it was going to be a tough ask to get it through some quite choppy waters, and as it came to pass, as of February the 12th, 2021, those regulations implemented in November 2020 have been disapplied. I don't know the legal technical ramifications of being disapplied. I don't know what it means, but in effect, they are no longer in force, basically. The judicial reviews never actually came to be heard. The government decided to disapply the regulations on a unilateral basis. I think they saw the writing on the wall. They obviously have taken legal advice and realised that their chances of winning the judicial review were slim or none. And so they've taken the pragmatic decision to disapply those regulations immediately as of February the 12th, 2021. As far as the Swansea LGPS is concerned, since those regulations came into force in November, there have been no exits which have been adversely affected by the 95k cap. So we, as the appendix in the guidance notes indicates, the disapplication of the regulations mean that any exits that occurred and were subject to the cap wound now. But as I say, in the Swansea LGPS, no exits was subject to the cap. I know the auditor from Audit Wales, Jason Garcia, mentioned earlier on the impact of McLeod, etc. Perhaps the government have learned from that experience, because obviously they fought that and went through the whole judicial process via that and lost. So perhaps you know, they've decided just to take a bloody nose this time and to disapply it at an early stage. However, HM Treasury, sorry, because they were responsible for this legislation, HM Treasury did indicate that they will be taking a second go at this. Alternative regulations will be worked on at pace, and that's, to use their words, at pace. So it hasn't got away. They will try and implement a more legal, in inverted commas, way of implementing some form of public sector exit cap in some shape or form going forward. And off the back of that, those regs being disapplied, although not included in the report, I can update you verbally, Chair and Committee, that the exit reform proposals which MHCLG consulted on, and again I reported to committee just before Christmas that those reforms were out to consultation. That consultation process has now ceased also, and those proposals have been withdrawn, again pending them revisiting that whole raft of proposals in respect of exit reform.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, there's all sorts of things in the pension environment at the moment, isn't it, being talked about as a way of paying for COVID and things like that, and the public sector will no doubt be part of that, as especially as the the Chancellor is a former pensions minister. I'm sure he's remember his time in Ministry of Pensions, whatever it's called. Okay, any questions for Jeff? No, that report's just for noting, Jeff.
Yep.
Okay, and that ends your reports. And I move to item 6, which is exclusion of the public. Somebody like to move, please? Jan, seconded by Will. Yeah, all in favour? Raise your hands. Yeah. Okay, nobody's against. I can see. Okay. So
Okay,
if you can
thanks,
turn off
Chair.
recording, Jeremy.
Yeah, stop recording now. Thank you.